that? Okay, thank you. That has passed. A vote, please. Okay, that's unanimous, 7-0. Comes to our school student advisory report, and unfortunately Jackson was here and he had to go home, so he is not able to give us that report. In the spirit of saving time, I will not have a president's report because we need to get our agenda, our meeting moving here. That brings us down to Mr. Provenzano's number C, his report.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for all the comments. I really appreciate the partnership and democracy in action. I'm going to have an opportunity to say and share some of my reflections, and I know I shared and I've talked to a few of you in the audience here who are participating. So I appreciate continuing dialogue and more dialogue in the very near future. I'm going to just emphasize the district has not adopted CRT. And in fact, it is not a curriculum. The district does not endorse a political or economic model of governance as well. Additionally, we recognize that it would not be educationally sound to utilize a single concept like CRT as a way to teach complex social issues. Our Fairport curriculum has always been diverse and rich, even when you went to school here. So our students are given the opportunity to explore and think and critically think about meaningful and relevant content that is directly connected to our New York State learning standards. Coursework requires that students are exposed to all different types of thoughts and ideologies. For example, in social studies, students explore topics such as feudalism, imperialism, westward expansion, monarchies, communism, socialism, and totalitarian dictatorships, just to name a few. In ELA, we have exposed our students to great and diverse literary works from various eras, most of which require a critical lens that promotes reflection and higher level thinking. In all instances, students are encouraged to draw their own conclusions and make meaning from the content we share. We do not endorse, again, a single framework. I will not repeat it. It is our obligation to promote meaningful and rigorous instruction by creating student-centered learning environments that affirm all voices and cultural identities. Nurturing student voice and fostering opportunities to engage in civil and non-violent discourse. As you could see, it's prevalent. You turn on any social media network or news feed, the nation is grappling. Students are grappling. Our nation is grappling. You see it everywhere. We have an obligation to constructively put parameters around it and doing it in an educational setting. Developing students' abilities to connect with those who are different. The world is different. The world is diverse. Elevating historical marginalized voices and ensure that curriculum is reflective of our students' lived experiences. We hear it continuously. As passionate as you are, there are others who are just as passionate and have a similar voice from their perspective that we're obligated to serve. Continue to acknowledge the role and impact that racism, prejudice, and bigotry have played in our history and of our civilization. We're teaching accurate history. Promoting civic engagement and empowering students to be agents of positive change through active citizenship. That's what public education is, and that's what we will continue to do moving forward. The Fairport Central School District has always done, as many of you have said, as many of you have participated in our schools, and as it is written in our Board of Education vision and mission statements. The vision of the district is to cultivate creative, healthy, caring, and critical thinkers who participate in and contribute to a diverse society as ethical citizens. Our work, Fairport's DEI work, assures that we will continue to prioritize access and equity for all students and foster their development as critical thinkers and problem solvers in our democracy and diverse world. We were able to see and celebrate 281 honor graduates this evening. We appreciate the work and we celebrate their academic accomplishments and their future endeavors. We also had one National Merit Scholarship, prestigious. We had a prestigious Merit Scholarship Award given to a student in high academic standing, and we have 9 students who are recognized and commended for their efforts as well. End of the year celebrations are incredible. They're happening throughout our entire district. We're incredibly proud to talk about one particular student at Brooks Hill. It's a wonderful story.
Volume.
Volume. The student's name is Sahar Gulan. Ready?
Technology in a 50-year-old building.
Pulling it from the main. It's there. It's on.
This 10-year-old is just as interested in knowing. Sahar was born in Afghanistan. She lives in a housing complex in Rochester suburb with Pet Fish, one of her best friends.
It's just a part of it. Doesn't mean like the whole country.
But her family knows it can be. Her dad drove a truck there. They used a car bomb not long before they left.
They arrived and exploded. A few years like laying down to the death. It was for there, but so there's something not a violence.
Like coming to America changed like my life and my perspective, and how living like in Afghanistan isn't so bad.
So that is why Sahar has written a book.
I want to write a book. Oh, okay, that's great. I have no idea how, but we'll figure out a way. She was finally able to express herself through some of the obstacles that she faced all her life, and get those things that are in her brain and in her heart finally out. She has such a story to tell, and it's so powerful how more people learn and hear from different lives.
I got to celebrate more. There's lots of things to celebrate in our school and our school community. So again, that was a great example of creating a learning environment that gives students an opportunity to share their voice, to affirm their voice, and to give them opportunities to, again, connect with others who are different. There was a fun run. If you went to our elementary schools over the past week, it was amazingly filled with students being active, participating in a fundraiser. They ran laps and around the track, and had fun listening to music, being with their friends, being outdoors, and they fulfilled an incredible fundraising effort. And if you take a look at the dollars there, Brooks Hill is still collecting for their fundraiser, but you could see that there's close to $175,000 there in fundraising efforts. That speaks to our incredible community, the caring heart to make contributions to greater causes. This week, as was mentioned here tonight, this whole month there's been an honoring and celebration of Juneteenth. Juneteenth marks the day when federal troops arrived in Galveston, Texas, in 1865 to take control of the state and ensure that all enslaved people are freed. Troops' arrival came a full 2.5 years after the signing of the proclamation in 1863. Juneteenth simply honors slavery in the United States and is considered the longest African-American holiday. Though not a federal holiday, 47 states and the District of Columbia recognize Juneteenth as a ceremonial holiday. And again, throughout the month, there's been facts for our students to learn about Juneteenth. And we'll be celebrating that or honoring that on June 19th, which will be on a Saturday. And what's looking forward, we're all looking forward to construction. We had interactions with the community a few years back, and overwhelmingly people said we needed to continue to improve and build upon our facilities. And tonight we're going to hear about that project tonight from our construction team, Labella and campus, excuse me, to talk about what's happening with that project in a little bit. So that's what I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That gets us down to the treasurer and investment update. Mr. Stevens.
Okay, thank you and good evening. Tonight we have the treasurer and investment update for the month of April 2021. During the month of April, we had a beginning cash balance in the general fund of $84.6 million, receipts of $1.3 million, consisting mostly of the tax from Monroe County being made whole for the school year, disbursements of $10.6 million for an ending general fund cash balance of $75.3 million. Of the 75.3, approximately 73.7 of that is invested in a mix of money market, insured cash sweep account, which is about 98% of the general fund cash balance. That concludes, in terms of revenue expenses, I'm sorry, for the month, compared to last year, revenues year to date through April, 117 million. Last year we had 115 million. Timing very similar. Overall, same with the expense, 89 million comparatively in both years overall through the month of April. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Brings us down to number 4, the consent calendar. I need a motion to approve the consent calendar, please. Marty first, second Damon. Any discussion? All in favor? Yes. Mary
Yeah, I
Caitlin?
had a couple of questions. Sorry, for 4G, when we're looking at the bid recommendations, is there a way we could see all the potential bids that come through and the companies? So I know we see the lowest cost and the best fit, but is there a way we could see that breakdown?
Yep, we can get the data. Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep.
And then for 4G, or sorry, for 4H, we have the surplus books. Where do they go when we have surplus books? I know we're clearing out, getting new volumes and such, but are any usable ones donated?
Yep, we go through the process per policy of selling, if possible, donating, any requirements throughout. So our goal is always to hopefully repurpose those books somewhere else if they're not purchased overall. So we've worked with Rotary in the past, donated, and so overall the books to get reused if possible. Yep.
Okay, any other discussion? Need a vote on that, please? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It's 7-0. Thank you. Gets us down to, let me get this iPad working here, a donation number 5, Motion that the Board of Education approves the following donation, anonymous donation for the 2021 Catalyst Scholarship Grant in the amount of $1,000. Do I hear a motion to accept that donation? Erica for a second. Joyce, any discussion regarding this? I'd like to say thank you to that anonymous individual who donated that $1,000 for this scholarship. That was very kind of them to do that. I need a vote, please. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes 7-0. Instructional personnel items, instructional. You see a list in front of you. There are a lot of, some teachers are transferring from one building to another, from one grade level to another. There are some parenthood leaves of absence. There's a resignation of a teacher. And then a teacher to alternative education. And we've got some summer school appointments, alternative education appointments, and different, let's see here, staff for the extended school year, educational summer assistants, teaching staff, elementary school new appointments. It's an extensive list, and then we do have one retirement, and that is for Peter Lawrence, who is our Director of Transportation. He will be retiring effective January 11th, 2022. I need a motion to accept this, please. Mary Caitlin, second. Peter, any discussion?
Does this get us, are we close to whole for all of our summer programs, which are much more extensive than they've been in the past?
As for our summer programming, I know we're hiring and we will continue to be trying to fill those positions, but we're getting closer every single day. The number of hires and action items that you see in here are directly related to the board goals of smaller class sizes and using federal dollars to reallocate them. You'll see some one-year positions as we move along to satisfy that community expectation of how we use those funds, and of course the board's priorities.
Brett, you also have 2 health education teachers here, which is universal K through 12 health in all the buildings. So I think that's good. And just if you can just talk a little bit about, I saw the dates on the health program or the summer program. I'm sorry, July 13th to August 6th. Something like that.
July 6th through August 13th.
Right. So we'll be running a more extensive summer program this
Yes.
year for a lot of kids.
Yes, we've always run a summer program, but
Yep.
we've increased enrollments because students needing more access to participate, to get reacclimated, develop learning habits, and of course, remedial skills.
Any other discussion about this?
And just one more thing about the summer program. You're actually we're running this program in every building.
Nope, they'll be running a program in buildings that are not using or being used construction, like the high
Right.
school. We won't have that, but the elementary one, I believe, I have to confirm it, but I think it's at I want to say north side.
Okay.
I will confirm that.
Any other discussion, questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That gets 7-0. Non-instructional and civil service. Again, we have quite an extensive list of new appointments, changing in assignments, additional positions. We do have a few resignations and one substitute, and there's a termination. Do I hear a motion, please? Marty, second. Joyce, any discussion? Is it a discussion, Damon, or no?
I was just going to ask real quick, I mean, how we're doing in transportation, Doug, from a bus driver perspective. Have we seen any movement there or change since we've made some modifications? I mean, are we still struggling with the amount of bus drivers? I imagine we are, but is that getting worse?
No, it's not getting worse, but obviously we haven't filled all the positions yet, and we're in negotiations currently with FTA, so hopefully that will yield promising results.
Okay, need a vote on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's 7-0. Salaries of personnel not covered by a collective bargaining agreement. Motion that the Board of Education approves the increase of salaries of personnel not covered by a collective bargaining agreement for the 2021-2022 school year.
So moved.
Peter first, second Marty. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. That's 7-0. Benefits contracts of personnel not covered by a collective bargaining unit. Motion that the Board of Education approves the benefit contracts of personnel not covered by a collective bargaining agreement for the 2021-2022 school year is attached. Motion, please.
So moved.
Peter, second. Erica, discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's 7-0. Thank you. Starting salaries for personnel not covered by a collective bargaining agreement. Motion that the Board of Education approve the hiring and hourly schedules for personnel not covered by a collective bargaining agreement for the 2021-2022 school year is attached. Motion, please. Marty, second. Peter, discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. That's 7-0. Those non-collective bargaining units, a lot of them are people who work in our kitchens, our bus drivers, and some of the groups that do not have a collective bargaining agency. So we've been looking at making sure that their pay is commensurate to the job they do, as also to the other districts in around the area. That was a comment that was brought up tonight. So we have been looking at that. Managerial administrative personnel salaries. Motion that the Board of Education approve the managerial administrative salaries for the 2021-2022 school year as attached. Motion, please. Mary Caitlin? Damon, second. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It's 7-0. Thank you.
I would just point out, Tim, I mean,
Go ahead.
Can I?
Yes,
You
you
go
can.
so fast. The titles, the job roles are all in the agenda. So if you want to know
Yes.
the people that were impacted by what we just voted on, just go to board docs, look at the agenda, and you can see what salaries we made adjustments to. But I think it goes back to what you talked about, Peter, and that is that we have been talking a lot about nurses and bus drivers and lots of non collective bargaining units, and we've made adjustments to their salaries in accordance to where they fit within Monroe County. We have a sliding scale. We wanted to make sure that our staff members are appreciated and valued, and we move them either towards the top or at the top of that list, Monroe County. So
And
something that we spent quite a bit of time
statewide,
on.
nationwide, there's a shortage of bus drivers, as we have seen. No matter where you drive, there's a become a bus driver sign out front. Everyone needs bus drivers. Same with cleaners. We have a very difficult time trying to find people who are willing to clean our buildings, who want to clean our buildings. So by increasing the pay to make it a little bit more attractive, that's why we did this. It's the jobs that parents used to take because, oh, okay, my kids are in school, so I can work in the kitchen from 10 to 2. Those jobs, the jobs are there, but the people who want those jobs aren't. And that's what we're finding. So it's really difficult to run a lot of the different parts of our schools on a regular basis. Thank you. And that brings us down to presentations. No, G, benefits contract of managerial administrative personnel. Motion that the Board of Education approves the benefit contracts of managerial administrative personnel for the 2021-2022 school year. Motion, please. Joyce, second. Mary Caitlin, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? 0. Thank you. 7-0. Brings us down to a capital improvement project presentation, and I would like to thank the gentlemen who have been here since 6:30 and being patient with us for the presentation. And this is revolving around the beginning of the high school project.
Again, we have Kevin Arlotta from Campus Construction Manager here, and Troy Williams also in the audience.
Great. Thank you.
Good evening. So tonight's presentation is on the Phase 1 high school project here. Just going to take a look at where we are with the project and what the highlights of this summer's work is going to be. So just an overall timeline on the project. Very close to starting construction, only 2 weeks out here once everyone gets out of the school buildings. And again, this project will carry through until the fall of '23. So just a quick look at the overall project budget, the approved referendum for 56 million. Our phase 1A contracts, that's here at the high school, is 20.5 million. We also have 706,000 in state contracts. You can see those broken out below. We have 14.5 million left in the estimated phase 1B construction value. We also have 7.2 funds available for construction. We have 10.2 million in our incidental and then 3.4 million in the construction contingency.
Sorry, can you elaborate more on the 7.3 for just construction? That it's not ringing a bell. All the other categories we've talked about, but that one seems kind of
Based on how the bids came in for phase 1A, they were below our estimated value.
all that 7.3 million below.
Correct,
Wow.
yes.
Okay. Wow. There's something to talk about, right? But I think we got to
Yeah,
put that
if
up
I-
to a workshop.
Yeah, if I could add, kind of, if we looked at the bid market at the time when we went out, very favorable. I'd say even a month after, Kevin, and you could even jump in here, we saw some bids come in other districts that were exceeding estimates, a little bit more out because of the cost of products. So, and materials, if, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes,
here,
we
but-
did hit the market at a very good time with this bid. As I'm sure everyone knows, the market's been quite volatile ever since then. But this was also a very attractive package for a lot of contractors to go after. It was going to be a home for their workers to be, through 2 whole school years here. So it was definitely a very attractive package.
This was April, correct?
We bid back in December, January.
The bid
Which
packet,
one
but
the
then
bid-
we actually had the bid, so.
We awarded in April.
In
Yep.
April,
Yeah.
right. So that's where they had it in early, would you say December?
Yeah, we had bids out mid-December, out for at least a month on the streets for review.
So the market,
Correct.
that's what you're talking about, that time. frame.
Yeah, you like to try to give them at least a month, 5 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks, so that everyone can take a look at it. Our pre-bid walkthrough, we had excellent participation. We knew we were going to get a lot of bidders on this one.
I'll tell you, I'm not a contractor, but if anybody's put out a bid for a home improvement project or a deck, they know the prices spiked sky high. So I think we really did come in at the right time.
Food. A friend of mine runs a restaurant. 6 weeks ago, she was told $22 for 10 pounds of haddock. Last weekend, it was $64 for 10 pounds of haddock. Yeah. It's crazy.
So do we make this a workshop topic in terms of the 7.3 million and that, I don't know what to call that, excess under bid or something? And
We need, absolutely, we need to have that as a workshop topic.
Yeah.
Yep. And because, we can adjust the monies there differently. Absolutely.
thank you.
So here's a look at the site work that will be starting this summer. And it's really the 2 larger pieces there, the existing stadium field and then the new multi-purpose field. Starting with the stadium, we'll be replacing the existing turf there. So we'll be pulling that turf up, verifying the sub base below, make sure everything's still in good standing order, touch it up if we need to, and then get the new turf installed this summer. The multi-purpose field, obviously there's a little bit more involved, a lot more area there to deal with. So we'll be continuing that work through the school year, wrapping that up in the summer of '22. But this summer, you can expect to see us out there with a lot of machinery, stripping the topsoil, relocating dugouts, getting our below sub-base drainage system in, and then getting the field stone in, getting ready for that turf to go in, hopefully with a calm winter, and getting that installed in the spring. Fingers crossed, but
And materials.
Yeah.
yes.
So
And
not
then-
anticipated for use by the next season. It will be after the season's over that it'll be completed.
Correct. And then looking inside the school on the first floor, you can see the areas highlighted in the reddish brown color is your kitchen cafeteria. We have the orange and gray hallways, and then that blue rectangle in the gym is the temporary kitchen. So starting off area 2, kitchen cafeteria, like the multi-purpose field, this is going to continue through the school year, and we'll be turning that over back to the district in August of 22. So we'll be working through the school year in that, but this summer we're really going to be focusing on getting all of the existing kitchen equipment out of there into the temporary kitchen setup in the gymnasium, the serving line, milk coolers, so the district can still operate once kids are back in September. Once we get all of that cleared out, we'll be doing all of the abatement work required in there, and then we'll go straight into demolition. We've got a lot of concrete floors to remove in there. We also want to get a good head start in our grease interceptor work that we need to put
And
in.
you're also filling in the atrium there.
I'm sorry. say
You're
that-
filling in the atrium there.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
The courtyard. Yeah.
So instead of those 2 cafeterias, it's going to be one large cafeteria now.
Correct. Yep. And then right into that second floor, we've got the area in yellow there. Just about the middle of that is where your courtyard comes up, where we're infilling and creating another classroom. So we're taking there's a classroom and an office on either side of that, where we're going to be changing out some interior walls in those. So we've got abatement in those areas to do as well. Once we get done with the abatement, we'll be doing demolition in there in conjunction with bringing up that space in the courtyard to create that classroom space. And similar to the first floor, the hallways on the second floor, we're going to be removing those spline ceilings, tying up all the existing lights and devices, tied up to the deck, and then beginning those ductwork removals. But that's going to be a phased process throughout the school year as we move around that building, especially with the classrooms too.
This is the science classroom for the most part on the second floor,
Correct.
modernizing classroom spaces in labs that haven't been touched since the 70s. So
1974, when the building was
Yeah.
first opened as a high school.
yeah, it's definitely going to be a good project.
Yeah.
So I know that
And this is our newest building.
Yep.
This is our newest building in the district. Shame on us for letting it go that long. And then you're going to be working on the science classrooms, 2 classrooms at a time? Or is it 4 at a time?
4 at a time.
4 at a time.
Yep.
So you get 4 classrooms, get those ready, turn those over.
Yep. Once we get wrapped up with the yellow space down there, we drop just down below that, take those classrooms over, get them turned back over. And then it gets a little confusing, but it's the last
Yep.
couple of classrooms at the bottom there, and then we go all the way to the top of the page on the left.
I do I do want to applaud your collaborative approach to designing these classrooms. I know that you spent a lot of time with the science department, you and Troy and your whole crew, with the science teachers, really talking about the needs that they have for those classrooms and the spaces for the kids in the labs. So that's great.
Thank you.
That
And I know some of the classrooms are going to be more specified for specific, like chemistry labs, where other classrooms will be more of a universal classroom. So you can fluctuate which science discipline you'll be teaching in that, correct?
There's different certifications
Right.
that are required, and they have different specs, and you guys have been attuned to it. You've been working with teachers, with the instruction team, so greatly appreciated.
You don't need gas jets in a earth science room. But that's important. I mean, that's part of the whole infrastructure of that particular area.
Thank you.
Yep.
Really
You're welcome.
appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. We appreciate it.
just groundbreaking next week on that
Yep, the
project.
groundbreaking will be June 22nd
Okay.
at 9:30 here at Fairport High School.
Okay.
Don't
And
know
then-
what, don't know what ground we'll be breaking on the interior of the building, but
Right. Yeah. The
It'll be symbolic, and it'll be,
Okay.
a nice celebration to begin, the
Yep.
long journey that started, 3.5 years ago.
okay. And put construction trailers back on site.
Yep, there's construction trailers on site. We're also using other district buildings and space to accommodate
Great.
site management.
okay. Brings us down to board discussion action items. A, policy first read, motion that the Board of Education approves the reading First reading of the following policies: registration and professional learning, public access to records, use of email in the district, student gender identity. That's the first reading. Motion, please. Joyce, second. Mary Caitlin, discussion?
Yeah, I had a lot of questions about the email policy, so I'm not sure we want to talk about that now, but I think there's things that are in that policy that we should process a little bit before we commit this to this final reading.
Would you,
We could talk about it before the second read.
Okay.
so send, and then the policy committee will work with that, with your
Sure.
questions.
Okay, I'll send you my comments. I think
Mhm.
I think we have to be realistic in terms of email and how it's being used, and we have to be careful about what we put in policy. Is something that's unenforceable, quite honestly, so.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, I need a vote on that, please. All in favor? That's 7-0, no one opposed. Thank you.
So I think Ariel will put that on the policy meeting for next month.
Policy second read, motion that the Board of Education approves the second reading of the following policies. Incorporating district website and web pages, gender neutral single occupancy bathrooms, school safety and educational climate, threats of violence in school, absentee ballots. And these have been discussed and these have been vetted through the various organizations, through our legal teams and through the BOCES. Need a motion on this, please. Erica, second. Joyce, discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Nobody? Thank you. 7-0. Control cycle internal audit report. Motion to approve the control cycle internal audit report completed.
Athletic training.
Got to do C.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did that. Thank you. Go back. Athletic training services agreement. Motion to approve the athletic training services agreement between the Fairport Central School District and Strong Memorial Hospital, UR Medicine, Sports Medicine, a division of the University of Rochester for the 2021-2022 school year. Motion, Erica. Second. Peter, discussion.
Yeah, can I ask both for C and then H for athletic performance services? What does this entail, either in difference between our coaches that were also hired? What do these people do? And is it commensurate with our Monroe County colleagues? Like, is
Yeah,
this an
this is a
expense?
standard contract. It's these are athletic training services. We're required by, the state. And I know families. Me as a parent of an athlete, you want a certified trainer to engage with your children, and we have contracts to fulfill that obligation. And we also do opportunities. There's only so many trainers that are available. Sometimes we share with other school districts, obviously, when they're here, and we can provide service as well.
So for a parent listening, we have our coaches, and then these are personnel.
This is not coaching. Yep.
Correct.
Yeah,
So
like
this is a personnel that's coming in, supporting different athletic work, making sure we're safe, making sure our kids have
And if kids are injured, and they
injuries.
need to go to the trainer to get, more information and more assistance.
Okay, just making sure.
And we also have an athletic performance trainer who supports our student athletes. All student athletes have the opportunity to learn how to train right. It's a life skill. Can't have enough of this service, but we've done a great job of getting as many of our teams in front of this professional.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's 7-0. Thank you. Now we come down to the control cycle internal audit report. Motion to approve the control cycle internal audit report completed by EFPR Group LLP as attached. Need a motion, please? Erica, second. Peter? Any discussion on this? Peter?
I was just gonna say for the D, E, and F, all very boring, meaning it's really positive. I enjoyed the discussion with the group, but again, to Matt and all your staff, is boring. They're thin. It's because there's just nothing there, right? There's not a lot of findings in terms of, well, there's nothing. It's just very positive.
The Audit and Finance Committee reviewed these last week. It's always good when your audits come back with no significant findings.
There is a finding on the transportation audit, however, there's a finding and recommendation that it's not a huge deal, but I think it's something to keep track of and make sure that we make adjustments according to what the audit recommends.
So one tract of it's always tracked. The next year they will look back and say what was in there or
Yep.
whatever and take care of those things. And you see the recommendation and the response, right, in the audit itself.
Yes. Yes.
Now, as pointed out, this was I don't know, there's technical terms, so you have to be careful in terms of saying findings or whatever. This is a recommendation that was made that's not necessarily based on, correct me if I'm wrong, on laws and everything. They just noted we had some people who are authorized to drive vehicles that aren't driving students or other things, and they said, we'll throw them in with the group essentially. So you're tracking their driving record, I'm summarizing quite at a high level, right? But throw them in, track them as well as everybody else because you have the mechanisms in place to do it anyway.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for the clarification. That's good.
Basically, anybody who's going to operate one of our vehicles, just make sure that we've vetted them with their driving record.
Which we do, but for some, we didn't necessarily keep them up to date because they're
Right.
not driving students around or other things.
This is why we do the audits, though. You know, there's no one flying around with perfection, but I do know that the standards and the quality of these audits have been, it's a credit to, the transportation team or the, school lunch program or wherever else we're doing these audits. So, Mr. Stevens and his team, takes a lot of pride in what's found in these audits.
Okay, any other questions? Need a vote on that, please. All in favor? Aye, that's 7-0, no one opposed. Claims audit reports. Motion to approve the claims auditor reports for December through April as attached. And those are the claims audit reports, and those are the daily operations of the district. Need a motion on that, please? Marty, second. Damon, discussion?
So I had a question. Both our internal and then our external auditor and F noted the purchase orders. We're getting them making after the purchases have been made, not for, big expenses, but for little things. How are we working to remedy that?
You just do your best to be proactive. I'm not going to sit and tell you anything different. We always try to get it beforehand, set dates, but what happens is, a field trip comes up and it's relevant and, the students from Martha Brown, went to that field trip and, I approved it beforehand, knowing that it aligned with the board's goals and expectations. Was a science trip where they walked and was on weathering.
I can just add to that.
Sorry, I was just talking about the purchase orders.
The purchase. Oh,
You're
okay.
really talking about confirming purchase orders as a whole.
Gotcha. My fault. Sorry.
Yep,
Punchy.
Purchase orders issued after invoice date. So we continue to remind folks across the district, across 8 school buildings and 4 ancillary administrative buildings, the process of purchasing. We remind with the policy and the administrative regulation, and continue to educate overall in terms of the process for purchasing, issue the PO, there are mechanisms in place. We have support in the business office and really try to help coach and confirm the process that should be followed as a whole. In some cases, there will be emergency purchases that will take place without the purchase order because something happens on a weekend, and our facilities team has to address an issue depending on what the case is.
A fuse.
Yep. So again, it's continue that education. That's the process as a whole to try to limit the number of confirming orders. In some cases, we also have software renewals. We have license renewals, and a lot of those you'll find on some of these reports that simply are license renewals that will issue an invoice and then the PO will get created. Some will cross school years depending on the timing of those pieces.
So there's always an explanation when it does happen, usually,
Yes.
right? I mean, and we do have, I know Jerry and your office really does a nice job and to make sure that people are following those rules and expectations. But there are times and there are exceptions, just like the field trips.
Yep. And in the claims auditor, the claims auditor and I have discussed, ways in which to increase the education and awareness and the fact that these come up on reports constantly so we can try to help narrow the number of times these are happening.
Anybody else? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? 0. That's 7-0. Internal audit risk assessment. Motion that the board accepts the internal control risk assessment completed by EFPR Group LLP as attached. Motion, please. Erica, second? Peter, discussion?
I think this was in the notes, but if it wasn't, the two items that moved from low risk to moderate risk were really related to COVID and understanding the financial environment under which the districts were across the state, right, operating. This was completed before it was new about ARP and other things, and so that has somewhat been abated in terms of that level of risk. Most school districts around the state finding themselves in decent financial standing, but that does continue on since those types of funds tend to be one time, right? And so that's where you'll see a risk change, not because of anything that was done internally, simply the environment of it. So that's really the point I wanted to make, is it wasn't saying anything about our assistant superintendent for business, but just the realities of the environment that we're in.
Okay, anyone else? All in favor? Aye, that's 7-0, thank you. Rental agreement between FEA and FCSD. Motion to approve the rental agreement between the Fairport Central School District and the Fairport Educators Association for a period of July 1, 2021 to July 30, 2022. Need a motion, please.
So moved.
Damon, second. Erica, discussion. This is a motion the Fairport Educators Association rents from the district an office to use. So this is their agreement so that they can rent that office from the school district, and they pay us for that. Anybody else? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? 0. Thank you. 7-0. Athletic Performance Services Agreement. Motion to approve the Athletic Performance Services Agreement between the Fairport Central School District and Strong Memorial Hospital, UR Sports Medicine, a division of the University of Rochester, for the 2021-2022 school year. Motion, please. Mary Caitlin, second. Marty, discussion. All in favor of this? Okay, all in favor? 7-0, thank you. Smart Bond Project Contract Award. Motion that the Board of Education approves execution of a contract between the Fairport Central School District and Day Automation per the attached proposal for the Smart Bond Project upon review and final approval by the Board of Education's attorneys. At such time as the agreement is reviewed and approved by the Board of Education's attorneys, the superintendent of schools shall be authorized to execute the agreement on behalf of the Board of Education. Need a motion on this, please.
So moved.
Marty, second. Damon, discussion on this.
So this smart bond, if you remember, this was approved, I think back in, was it 2013 or 2014?
Yep, the state approved the bond that they would take out for smart bond. We just received approval from State Education Department for the actual project. Remember, we went to the Smart Schools Investment Plan approval last year. Design work by the architects in collaboration with Day Automation. We have a standardization resolution with Day Automation. This work is state contract. Felt it was important because of the size of the work to bring the agreement to the board, so you can see this contract. It's the proposal itself. Fairport's allocation is a little over $3.2 million. That of that 3.2, Day Automation, it's primarily the DORA hardware access controls throughout the district of our classrooms, interior classrooms throughout the entire district. I'm sorry, for the school buildings across the district. So this is, now that we have SED approval to work with Day Automation on the contract. One important note as we're looking for this project work and scheduling is New York State, according to the reimbursement process, New York State is about 6 to 8 months on reimbursement of claim vouchers as we submit them as school districts. So it's very important in the cash flow work of this project because the school district will be fronting the cash, submit reimbursements. It's our understanding that only one claim can be in until that money's reimbursed. After 6 to 8 months, we can submit another claim. So it's important for the timing of the cash flow and the work itself.
And it's a good reminder that we are outfitting our classroom doors with security entrances on all classroom doors.
Yeah, so let's just.
Key fob entrance.
Just to kind of review the scope, it looks like there's 691 door controls through Day Automation is a great company. They do a lot of this work in this area. And I think I saw there was 61 exterior cameras and new video control servers, and it's a complete system. So it's going to be pretty impressive.
Thank you. Yeah.
Again, this was processed through a safety audit by the Monroe County Sheriff and through Fairport Village Police Chief Sam Farina. Shared and did a comprehensive review, and this was one of the priority items that came up.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. It's 7-0. Thank you. Change order resolution for the Smart Bond project. Motion to approve the change order resolution for the Smart Bond project as attached. Motion? Erica, second. Joyce? Discussion? Mr. Stevens?
Just staying consistent with our process of change order resolutions. Again, like I said, it's a state contract award, but felt that if there were any major changes above 50,000, that, you'd see those before those would move forward. But
Correct.
overall, again, state contract, standardization resolution with day automation, and those pieces we have all in place already.
Great. Thank you. All in favor? Aye, that's 7-0. Thank you. School food service budget. Motion to approve the school food service budget for the 21-22 school year as per the attached, with a total budget of $2,584,996. Do I hear a motion? Erica, second. Marty, discussion. Stevens.
Yep, I just want to comment overall, as we saw the food service program throughout the course of the year, before we came back in April, projecting a little bit larger of a loss as a whole. As we saw students at K through 6 return, we saw our participation levels in the program come up to levels close to where we were last year before COVID. So we start some of the revenues start to increase. The federal funding, as you know, our program right now, we have all free meals. Students can receive 1 free breakfast and 1 free lunch a day. And the reimbursement at the federal level is helping support the revenue side of this budget. So next year, with the free, with the waiver that's in place at USDA, the free program will continue. And most of our revenue for next year is anticipated to be the federal and state funding, rather than sale of meals. So you'll see that, as we go throughout next school year. So
And we did learn that if students want a second lunch, they do have to pay for the second lunch.
they do have to pay for the second lunch, correct?
Hey, Matt, I think I read, I'm not sure where I read it, but for the summer program or just summer lunch meal program that we provide for kids, we're partnering with East Rochester this year. Is that correct?
Yep, we usually will communicate the information that East Rochester does provide their free program all summer. Also try to provide information on Parrington Food Shelf and work within the communities and programs available. Correct.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. 7-0. Budget transfers. Motion to approve the budget transfers as attached. Mr. Stevens? You want to just- What, did I miss one? Oh. I've been doing it because I'm looking at the wrong one that's highlighted. Sorry about that. 2020-2021 year-end fund balance analysis and use of reserves. Motion to approve the fund balance analysis and reserve recommendations for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021 as attached. Okay. Mr. Stevens, do you have anything you want to? Oh, I'm moving to motion. Thank you. 10:07. Erica. Second. Joyce. Discussion. Mr. Stevens, thank you.
Thank you. Again, with it reviewed in the Audit and Finance Committee, and also in collaboration of working with our auditors and identifying fund balance uses as a whole. This year for revenues, we saw and projecting, we haven't received our last sales tax payments from Monroe County, however, projecting excess in revenue in the sales tax, which is much better than anticipated back in the budget planning taking place a year ago with COVID and how sales tax was decreasing. Those know, Monroe County still shares with school districts, which we really appreciate as a school district, because it does help support over $5 million of revenue for the schools. And then remember in revenue, we also had the sale of our Victor Road property. So that was also a revenue during the school year that would be a one-time revenue that we'd receive during 2021. So overall, between the revenues and expenses, obviously increased expenses overall in terms of COVID-related expenses, PPE, equipment that we purchased throughout the school year. However, we did have some savings in terms of salaries in other categories because of the staffing that we had taking place throughout the school year and some of the different programs being offered. Didn't decrease programs, but in terms of the staff needed during the hybrid process, some of that may be less overtime and extra hours and in many cases overall. So combined together, you see the recommendations related to the fund balance of keeping the assigned fund balance and allocating those funds. And then with our long-term goals overall of allocating the majority of any excess to the capital reserve to support the long-range facilities planning goals.
The sales tax is something that I don't know how many of our residents really understand. That Monroe County is one of the few counties in the state that actually shares sales tax with the other taxing entities such as school districts and towns and villages. I know in the village, when we were working on our budget, we projected about a 20% drop in sales tax, and as the shutdown went on, we were very pleased to find that people were shopping at home. And 3 years ago, the state approved the collection of sales tax for online shopping. So that really helped us because people were at home shopping on the computer and we were still generating sales tax. If you can shop in Monroe County, that's only going to benefit everybody. Unfortunately, Eastview Mall is just over the county line in Ontario County. So if you shop at Eastview, that's going to Ontario County, that sales tax dollars. So. Hey, back in the 70s, we had an opportunity to build it over where Woodcliff is, but people didn't like that. Okay, you need a vote on this, please. All in favor? Aye, that's 7-0. Thank you. Budget transfers. Motion to approve the budget transfers is attached. Motion, please. Marty, second. Mary Caitlin, discussion.
Overall, is looking at the budget transfers, it's 3 main budget transfers that can kind of be lumped into. The first of which is transferring to cover the costs really related to phase 1B of the project, because that project piece hasn't been bid out yet, supported in general fund until we can set up the capital fund with the supporting revenue. We will have a short-term note going out here in July to support phase 1A and portions of 1B with the cash flow that we work with our fiscal advisors and construction management team. So again, in the future, that money will come back to general fund when the phase 1B portion is able to be set up over in capital fund. The next piece is replenishing the maintenance building repair contracts. Remember the beginning of the year, really we transferred funds out at a board meeting early on in the school year to support many of the PPE purchases that had to take place through our custodial department. So funds were really moved into our A1620 account to support much of the PPE, about $500,000. So now at year end, really trying to shift some monies back and looking at our budget overall so that our maintenance department can work at getting at many of the things that we had initially budgeted for within the building repair contract side to take care of that, preventive maintenance, long-term maintenance pieces, taking care of our parking lots, sealing, striping, and so forth. And then the third transfer, if you remember, we made a purchase for desks as we were coming to April. So that purchase was made out of the buildings and grounds budget line in order to do it timely and to get the PO in so that we could get those desks in. Now we've had the expense, paid it. We need to we recoded that expense over to the instructional categories. It's instructional equipment. And then it's doing a transfer over to the instructional equipment lines to address all those across each of the buildings, equipment lines where the desks went to. And that's part of our transparency reporting and requirements at the state level that we have to code the expenses out of the appropriate building. Those are the 3 transfers. You see many lines in terms of the equipment piece to support that.
Okay, Thank you, Peter.
Oh, just relative to our short-term borrowing and long-term, I don't know what we can do because I know we talked a little bit about it with the regulations and doing short-term versus long-term, but anything we can do to push to long-term as soon as possible. I saw a TAN rate today of 0.39 is incredibly low. Now that doesn't equate to the bond because they'll be much higher because we'll do 15 years. But I
This
don't
will
know,
be
as soon as we
15.
can get out there to borrow money before rates start going up, it will benefit us and save us a lot of money on the district. So I don't know what they can do or what they'll recommend, but the sooner the better.
Thanks, Peter.
Okay, all in favor? Aye, that's 7-0, thank you. Brings us down to BOCES initial service contracts. Motion to approve the 2021-2022 AS-7 contract for services with Monroe No. 1 BOCES as attached. Need a motion, please. Joyce, second. Mary Caitlin? Discussion. Mr. Stevens, one more time.
Yes, this is our annual service request contract through BOCES, a little over $14 million, supports all of the technology pieces that we utilize through BOCES for supports, equipment purchasing, supports our arts and ed programming, it supports our CTE programming for the Eastern Monroe Career Center where we send students, our special ed programming. So all the different pieces, curriculum writing that we're able to access through BOCES for the shared services and receive aid back on a good portion of that. Special ed piece, important to note and carve out that that's actually aided in a different method, not a BOCES aid. That's a special ed, separate excess cost aid piece.
This was that one slide that we did, we created that spoke to, where the dollars go to in our unique programming and how we use BOCES to offset some of those costs
Yep.
of services.
I did want to note, just if you're looking at this, you won't see the BOCES capital, the large capital project on here because we have a separate IMA, intermunicipal agreement with BOCES that takes care of that. So just want, if you're looking for that $1 million cost, that's in a separate piece.
Great, thank you. All in favor? Aye, okay, that's 7-0, thank you. That brings us down to comments from board members. Anybody have anything they'd like to say or share? Mary Caitlin?
I just wanted to say thank you to everybody here at the high school. I was able to attend the honors breakfast today, and I'll be back in 8 hours to do the one for tomorrow. But it was just, it's a nice celebration. The kids got their certificates. They had a nice breakfast. It was just, it's always the best part of the year, right? The end of the year when you get to celebrate everything they've accomplished.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Next is a motion to enter into executive session for the purposes of discussing matters related to the evaluation of the superintendent of schools. Need a motion, please? Erica, second. Mary Caitlin? Discussion. I will say this, that when we come out of executive session, we will simply exit executive session, come back to regular session to adjourn the meeting. We will not be broadcasting after that. We will not be conducting any business after that. We will simply come out of executive session to adjourn the public meeting. Do I hear a vote to go into executive session? All in favor? Aye, okay, that's 7-0, thank you. And thank you all for coming, and we do appreciate sorry, turn my microphone off too soon. Good night. Thank you.